Guys, I found out what the cruciform key unlocks.
What? What is it?
Are you prepared to?
No, but I want you to say anyway.
Okay. It's not to save the world. It's not to shut down the entity. It's to start the podcast.
It's the Untitled Film Project Podcast. Mission Impossible Final Reckoning is here. And Jeremy K. Gover has the merch.
I do.
This swan song of the nearly 30-year Mission Impossible saga.
It's the entity.
Tom Cruise.
Hold on, I gotta find it first. And Jim's like starting off with that.
Oh,
here.
no.
There we go.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Retrieved from the bottom of the ocean.
Popcorn, by the way. This is not like a motif. This is actually...
It's not stunt corn.
No. Stunt corn. Which actually goes hand in hand with our big question we'll get to in a second. Sorry, Jim, go ahead and...
I don't even want to know where that's going. Mission Impossible, it's been nearly 30 years of the saga. Tom Cruise, a.k.a. Ethan Hunt, and his IMF team must stop the entity, a sentient AI villain, before it unleashes destruction on the human race.
If we want to bring the world back from the brink, we have to deal with him. Should he choose to accept? I need you to trust me. One last time.
As we do on all podcasts of the Untitled Film Project, we ask a big question.
That big question, because Tom Cruise, of course, is well known for doing most, an overwhelming most of his own stunts. Obviously the Mission Impossible franchise and other places as well. The big question this week, which we want your opinion on, if you're watching on YouTube, down below. If you're not, social media channels are Untitled Film Project Podcast.
Get on with it.
If you knew you were going to be safe, you're going to be my answer here in a second. If you knew you were going to be safe afterward, what one stunt would you want to do yourself?
Punching the shit out of Gover.
Let's get initial takes on Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. Let's start with Justin Bradford.
So it was a little long.
Skosh.
Just a skosh long, but they had to wrap up a lot of things. Overall, I enjoyed it. And I'll say this. This is not going to be meant for the average action movie goer.
Nope.
This is similar to that of Marvel films in terms of you need some backstory, which you can probably accomplish a good bit by watching some YouTubes. But you need some backstory if you really want to understand what's going on. Now, we all know this. Mission Impossible films are known for curveballs everywhere, and you don't always know what's real. That's just been the case since movie one, right? Masks, there's things that are happening. They tease it all the time of things that are going to happen or not happen. You still don't know what's real.
Double crosses.
There's so many of that going on. So if you have not seen at least the Dead Reckoning Part 1, you're going to be very lost. Like, you are going to be very lost with what's going on. Now, they recap plenty.
I'm going to disagree with you on needing to see all the movies, but I'll get to that when I get my take.
Yeah, hold on. You don't need to see all of them, but you need to understand what Mission Impossible movies are. Okay, fine, Jim. But I will say I enjoyed it. Tom Cruise is one goofy mofo, but he knows how to make a summer blockbuster.
Yep.
Yes, he does.
He truly does, and because he cares. He produces these films. He produces films that he wants to be successful, and he makes sure the right elements are in these films for them to be good and entertaining. He makes entertaining movies, and obviously he has a role in the casting, I'm sure, and they cast the right people for so many roles here that even though there could be plenty of confusing things going on, I'm still watching because I'm like, wow, they got this person to be in Mission Impossible. This is really awesome. Look at all these people that are in this movie
that was a
want
score.
To be part of it.
That was a score. Yes.
Oh, yeah. And the people that you didn't even realize were going to be in it unless you were doing deep dive following leading up to the movie, right? But overall, it took some time to set up everything. But once you got into Act 2, it just roared and it kept going. And it was fun to experience this in IMAX. It's filmed for IMAX. There's plenty of those huge, giant scenes. There's great music throughout. They rehash so much from previous films that make it fun, especially if you're a Mission Impossible fan, which I know Gover's a whore for Mission Impossible. And I appreciated that as well, too, because they made things come together. They didn't have to come together. But overall, these movies are meant to be outlandish and unbelievable in so many ways, whereas with the stunts, the stories, and we accept it. And that's okay because they set that expectation that not everything's going to be realistic. And that's what you need to do for a movie like this is set the expectation of this is not realistic, but it's still close to the narrative of what could happen in real life. And that's what has the stakes involved. The movie has stakes. I felt stakes. I was surrender cobering during the movie because of the stakes at hand where I was feeling just immense pressure. I really enjoyed the film. And I think if you enjoy movies like this, you're going to have a fun time at the theater.
Gover, what do you think?
This is a direct sequel to Dead Reckoning. We don't need to see flashback scenes from Dead Reckoning. If you want to give us flashback scenes from the first movie and the third movie and the fourth movie and so on, I get it. That's fine. But this is a direct sequel to that movie. You don't need to then show us what happened in that movie. And this goes against everything I believe in, actually, because I always say that you have to get the audience up to speed to a certain degree.
You do.
But I think they do that. I would argue how, but they do it with exposition overload to begin with. You know, the president is giving him his orders on a VHS tape, so it's immune from the entity, and he's watching on a Daewoo television, which I turned to Bradford and I go, shout out to Daewoo. Like it was so wow. Right. So random. Anyway, so, you know, they start, she's recapping everything in the Mission Impossible way, and that's fine. It's a creative way to do it. And they're flashbacking on all the different movies, and that's wonderful. But then they start doing it later in the movie. Like, and they're like, oh, well, you know, when I bumped into you in the airport, you're like, we know who Haley Atwell is. We just, this is a direct sequel. So it's interesting that I'm saying that, but it really did distract me from the rest of the movie. I thought you could trim a lot there. So I'll just keep that my initial thoughts. It's a direct sequel. We don't need to see all that.
That's it. No, I want more in your initial take.
Oh, we're getting more.
That's what an initial take is.
It's an initial take, dude.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I'm gonna say I'm gonna jump onto that wagon because there is so much splaining in this movie to a fault.
Yeah.
In fact, they tell you what's at stake and what the plot of this movie is at least 5 times in this movie alone.
Unnecessary.
Which they did in the last movie. So I was just so aware of, okay, you've told us this again. So it would jump to a new scene and say this is in the cabin of a plane that's, you know, rushing our favorite team to another side of the planet so that they can save the day. And again, Ethan Hunt will say, we have to stop the entity. And they'll flip to Grace, who's just over his shoulder, pull focus, because the entity will take over everything. Quick, go to Luther, because it will destroy every nation that has nuclear weapons. And then they'll cut to another character. Nobody finishes a sentence in this whole damn movie. That being said, it's a formula. It's a formula we like. It's fun. But that happened so much that I was like, get on with it. You've explained this so much. When the stunts do hit, they hit hard because they need to for this franchise. That's what they've set as the bar, and they definitely hit it. These stunts are amazing, maybe even too long in this movie, but they do it well. And there's nothing that was left on the table. They used everything they had. You're going to get your money's worth if you just want to be freaking dazzled by a movie.
Now you're going to get more. If you go back and look at the history of the franchise, there's certain tent poles along the way. Okay. And they, like, you know, Ethan Hunt there's different things. Like he's in China for this one. He's in Japan for that one. He's in Kashmir for that one. He's in, you know, it's all over the world. I found it almost like hilarious to me that he was actually in America at some point in this movie. Which is really, really funny.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he's been in America since
when he's captured.
Yes. Well, right. But he's in America. But it's like, well, has he seen his homeland?
He's been hanging.
Yes. But anyway, there's certain things that you can see, okay, he's dealt with fire. He's dealt with the air. He's dealt with whatever it is, a desert, right? All these things. So it was awesome to see them submerge him this time. He goes to a submarine. He's got to fill it. I held my breath the entire time, by the way. I mean, you know he's going to make it out. You're pretty sure he's going to make it out. But they successfully played that scene where he's in the submarine, in the Sebastopol. Like, you don't know. What's the solution? I can't figure it out.
They keep ratcheting it up.
But it's ridiculous, like you said, but we accept it. We choose to believe it.
And you know what added to that was the music.
Of course.
Because you know what the music reminded me of? Because it was like a little creepy and everything, was the opera scene in Star Wars.
I thought the same thing.
And it's with Squid Lake, the Mon Calamari Ballet. And it's the whoa.
Yes.
That music is just so creepy because a creepy thing's happening.
Yep.
That's Palpatine that is just wooing Anakin right there during that whole scene. And this music right there was supposed to have Russian undertones, of course.
The guttural.
Very guttural. And it's just, I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I thought it was Star Wars too.
It amps up the intensity of him just arriving at the submarine too. So the music, and that's been a key thing for Mission Impossible, the whole franchise, right? We know the theme, but it's been the different takes on the theme as well too. And that's what I've loved about these movies is what makes a great action movie is the score, because you're amping up the adrenaline for the audience at the right times. And these movies have done that very, very well.
And I will add to that saying that it's not like some of the other movies we've seen. Aquaman 2 comes to mind where, just go on this.
Okay.
Where the music is so over the top crescendo.
Yes.
It's climax city, the entire movie. You're like, no, I can't stay up here. You have to build to it.
Yeah.
And I did not feel that way.
No, not at all. Okay, I want to bring something up, and this is at the very end of the film. It's in the credits. And what I appreciate about the credits is we all know watching this, because it's almost 3 hours, it's a very long film.
Yes, it is.
Meaning there's a very large cast. And this is just a key point that I really enjoyed, was the way they broke down the cast listing was by location in the film, like the different ships, the submarine, the base and everything, because and Jim and I were talking afterwards, it kind of helps you silo when you're trying to look at the cast of who was in what, because there's such a huge cast. There's so many people listed. And I love that because it helps you place, oh, that's right, Hannah Waddingham was here and this person was here. And
Travell Timlin was on the sub.
Yes. I just really appreciated that, because I've not seen a movie break up a cast listing in the credits like that too. I think that's an attribute to why they love making these films as well too, is they care about the cast as well, and people want to be a part of it. So just one little thing I wanted to know, because I really did appreciate that nice little touch at the end.
Was anybody disappointed in Gabriel's lack of impact in this one?
I was a little bit. I have a little bit of a man crush on Asa Morales.
Okay.
He's just like, he's a really good looking guy, and he's kind of played this role of Gabriel pretty well. But he jumped the shark for me in this movie. When it gets to the point where he's trying to get away in the biplane stunt portion of the film.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
He's giving maniacal laughter. It was so cartoonish that it didn't fit anything he had done previously in the Mission Impossible movies.
But at that point, is he maniacal because of everything that's going on? Just to try to...
He's lost the only thing that's given him promise, which is the entity. He left the train in Dead Reckoning without the key, and he had to go back and basically report to the entity he doesn't have it. And then the entity basically cast him aside, and he's scrambling to get it back. If he's unraveling, I can see it.
And I get what you're saying.
I did not get the same.
It was a little cartoonish for me.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. No, I get what you're saying. I can understand why the character would be going down that route of being maniacal laugh.
I was just disappointed in the fact that, like, in the first movie meaning Dead Reckoning, not the first movie. In Dead Reckoning, he's the villain. He's the face of the entity. The entity obviously is the villain, but he has a part to play, and he murdered the person that brought Ethan to the IMF to begin with pre the first movie, and which we're going to get to in my final scores, by the way. But he has all that. And then in this one, he's just kind of like there. Like he's like this jaded old lover that's like, hey, I wanted to be with her, but she didn't want me anymore. So I'm going to go create some havoc. It's like, oh, okay. Why are you here? Yeah. So I had a lot of, they need a warm body for this plane battle thing at the end. And so they just put him in there. I don't know. He's underwhelming to me in this one.
I was going to say everything up to this movie, I think the part of Gabriel has been really fun and really good and served the story well. But he, like the entity, lost interest in him. This movie seemed to lose interest in him.
That's a good way to put it.
All right, let's score Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning.
That's 8 for those who are counting. Mission Impossible 8.
If you love the movies, not enough. If you're like, how do they do 30 of those? Go over. Kick us off.
Watch them all except for 2. Okay, this is a direct sequel. You don't need flashbacks of the Dead Reckoning. We'll talk about that. They don't pay off the history with Gabriel. Okay, we never hear about why he killed this woman that Ethan was, with, or whatever. They don't pay off that woman either. Her death of trying to get Ethan, they eventually got Ethan to the IMF. They say that that's what it was this linchpin thing that happened that brought him to us. But they make a big deal out of that in Dead Reckoning. That Gabriel's this ultimate villain who takes away this thing. And then who is that lady? Do we know who she is? No, we don't know who she is. We got to figure out who she is. And then they don't pay it off in the sequel. They don't pay off who the woman is in the sequel. They don't even talk about how he got to the IMF other than the fact that, through this death, he got here. Well, okay. And then the last thing that really grinds my gears is in Dead Reckoning, they build this whole thing out of nowhere. Again, there's 8 of these. Okay. So the 6 movies before that, they say, of course, they've been saying since the TV show of, your mission if you choose to accept it. Sure. If you choose to accept it. Got it. But in Dead Reckoning, they reshaped that to before I made the choice. Grace, we were all given a choice and we were all here. Oh, well, when I made that choice, it's all about the choice. It's all about that throughout the whole Dead Reckoning movie. And in this one, they don't pay that off either. There's no payoff of like, what was the choice? What got you here? Who brought you? What was the choice you were given? None of that. And the issue here is it's called The Final Reckoning. So if this is going to be the final film, and I'm not saying it has to be, but I am saying it should be. If this is the final film, you got to pay all these things off. Why are you wasting time, albeit fun, to go back to the first 6 movies before Dead Reckoning and pick apart little things and storylines that can come together? That was awesome for a diehard fan like me.
There was fan service.
My parents, who don't know the ins and outs, they've probably seen maybe 2 or 3 of them, who do love a good movie, they are going to be completely lost in this if they go see it. And that, I think, it hurts it the most because it's made for the diehard fans like myself. I loved it. I will go back and see it. I can't wait to take my son to see it. I'll probably buy it and watch it 15 times like I have Dead Reckoning and Fallout and all the other ones. But at the end of the day, this is not for the average audience, and I think it's going to hurt them at the box office. The last thing, Ethan Hunt should have died, period. Okay? It's called The Final Reckoning. It's accepted that this is going to be the final movie. Again, even if it's not, it still suggests that it is. That's it. And they had a perfect excuse. He's falling through the air because he didn't have a parachute, right? I mean, Gabriel's character even said, only one of us has a parachute before his awesome death, by the way. He says, only one of us has a parachute. Good luck. Okay. So Ethan gets in there. He finds a parachute. That's a whole other story. But he could have easily not found one. Plane gets on fire. He falls out of the sky. He is able to use both parts that he has, the key and the Sevastopol thing, put them together. It transmits this signal. And they don't have to show him hitting the ground. They could have he fell through the clouds and that would have been it. Mm-hmm. It should have been over. Ethan Hunt should have passed away in this movie. I'm giving it a 6.5. I think it's the worst Mission Impossible movie since number 2, and number 2 is god awful.
Wow. So would they be accused of pulling a James Bond if they killed him?
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
Meaning,
because I was thinking
that's how he went out. He was through sacrifice.
Sacrificed himself.
Well,
I was thinking that too. I just want your take.
When he was falling through the sky, okay,
like would you want to be questionable death?
No,
real death.
I mean, I don't want to.
Then you have to show it, right?
No, because here's what you do. He's falling through the clouds, right? We see him actually disappear through the clouds, and he's struggling with the thing. I was like, okay, this is going to be it. They don't have to show him hitting the ground, but what they can show is they can show some dolly shot going around like this of maybe his hand out.
Right.
Where he's on the ground, his hand's out, and then that message, which remember Luther played had a message for him, hey, if you're hearing this, you're alive, blah, blah, blah. That would have actually made the message more haunting had he not been alive.
Yeah.
And Luther said, hey, if you're hearing this, Ethan, you're alive. You've done the right thing. Never doubted you. But he really did do the right thing. He sacrificed
I'm still
himself.
posing the question, would people have equated it to the way James Bond died?
I don't care.
I don't know. I'm with Gover. He should have been
asking, yeah.
he should have been able to touch this script, because I think that would have been a much more interesting ending.
Did people want a more happy ending though for Ethan?
Don't care.
Now,
It's the final reckoning.
I know.
If you called it Dead Reckoning Part 2, guess what? That all goes away. You called it you changed it from Dead Reckoning Part 2 to the Final Reckoning. You changed the title. The title suggests it's over. He should have died.
It's got dead in the title. I mean,
the other one does. Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. The formulaic nature of Mission Impossible movies was so evident in this final version. And yes, they've been evident throughout, but they exceeded at hitting the cliches of a Mission Impossible movie. We talked about the splaining. There was so many conversations about the stakes. They did it a lot. You have so many countdown clocks. In just this movie alone, there are so many stunts that they did really, really well. I think actually the stunt plane, biplane sequence was a little too long. And the first half of this movie, a lot of stuff didn't have to happen. It needs about a half hour gone from this movie, but I realized what they were doing, and Tom Cruise knows how to give you your money's worth. So when you watch this movie, between the locales, the stunts, the cinematography, everything about it, you see every penny you spent for the ticket to go in. Like, you're not going to go, oh, they cheated me out of stuff. In fact, they put too much in. They should have been a little more choosy about what they put in this movie. But you're just not going to walk away saying, oh, I got gypped. That was totally not worth it. They're going to give you your money's worth. You're going to see all these formulaic Mission Impossible cliches done, but done really well. It doesn't mean it's a great movie. It just means they're giving the fans what they want. So while I was excited by some parts of this movie, I thought it was maybe a 7.0.
I enjoyed myself. And I do want to pose this question because we didn't discuss it.
Mm-hmm.
It's overall fairly minor, but what did we think about the Briggs to Jim Phelps connection?
I hated it.
I thought it was unnecessary.
I thought it was forced and completely stupid.
I don't know why they needed it.
They didn't need it.
It was
a reach back to the first movie,
square
which
peg.
they already had, by the way.
Right, with Don Lowe. You
Yes.
didn't need to have another one.
Yes.
So I just wanted to ask.
So dumb.
unnecessary.
Yeah, because Briggs is Briggs all right. Like, he already had his thing because he's like, agent.
I will say, because I watched Dead Reckoning about 15 times leading up to this movie, I will say there is another throwaway line where they're getting off a plane. It's him and Dugas, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, do you know this guy, Ethan Hunt? And he says, no. Oh, he says, no, not personally. And he goes, but it is personal. And then, like to Jim's point earlier, no sentence or thought is ever finished in the Mission Impossible series.
Right.
So there was that. But it's like, okay, so they clearly had the idea.
Yeah.
But if you take out that whole scene where he's in the plane in handcuffs and they're going back to the United States, you can get rid of all that.
Right.
You don't need any of that.
Unnecessary.
Yeah, totally unnecessary. I agree with you.
So, okay. I just wanted to get that in there.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it. It is long. It definitely, when I got out and looking, going, oh, it's a long movie. But
it's not like in-game long, but it's
no, but I will say, in the moment, because I watched it and experienced it in IMAX, I didn't feel like it was that long because I checked my watch and was surprised at what time it was. Because the second and third act were full of action and stunts, it doesn't drag like some movies can drag when they're just long for the sake of long.
It was relentless.
Right. So like it kept my
Driving.
brain going to where I'm not thinking, I need to check my watch to see what time it is. Now afterwards and going, whew, yeah, that was long. That first act was actually pretty darn long. Again, I love what Tom Cruise does for entertaining movies. And what I appreciate, again, is the humor they put into the team. And it's not just Simon Pegg. It's Paris, Paul Clementieff's role. I mean, great little one-liners in French. And when you just see it pop up on the captions, I'll kill people.
Some of the best subtitle comedy I've seen in a long time.
And she can deadpan deliver them so well. Like
in French.
Yes, and I appreciate that about these movies too, but I feel like they really snuck in some comedy when comedy was needed in certain moments to make you go, whew. And it was everywhere. It could have been on the George H.W. Bush. It could have been on the submarine. It could have been anywhere. They inserted some comedy, and I really do appreciate that about this, because if you just hit people nonstop with serious action, it does exhaust you. Overall, it just really can exhaust you. So I just want to say I appreciate that little bit in there too. Seeing Nick Offerman sacrifice himself.
He's great.
Didn't need him though.
No, it wasn't
the character he needed, but I'm saying him.
It didn't need to be Nick Offerman.
Yeah.
But it's cool to see Nick Offerman because
for sure,
he knows how to deliver lines.
I'm sure Tom Cruise called all these guys and was like, "Hey,
totally.
You want to be in it for a couple days, right? You know,
if a day,
sure."
Well, and he gets to be a general.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. It is always difficult to wrap up a series, right? There's a lot of pressure, whether it's a television series or a franchise and film. There's a lot of pressure because there's expectations of what people want. They want you to just have things pay off. They want this, they want that. So I understand it is difficult, but there are a few things obviously they could have done so much better, but I was entertained. And for something like this, I want to be very much entertained. I'm a big fan of this franchise. I know Gover's even more because he knows more of the lore and has watched and remembers more stuff. I do remember Mission Impossible 2 sucking completely.
I've seen each one probably approximately 71 times, except for number 2. It's horrible.
But I was very much entertained in the moment, and I feel like if people are going, that's what they're overall going to want. And for that, I'm going to give it a 7.5.
All right, so we're all in the same ballpark.
We are.
I think we are. I think we can acknowledge
blowing you away.
No,
we can acknowledge where this movie is not great cinema, but it is a fun movie.
It's just that's a nice reminder that it doesn't have to be great film.
No,
but it can still get your butt in seats.
Maverick was a ton of fun.
Take me somewhere for a couple hours.
Yes.
Yeah. Big question time on the Untitled Film Project Podcast.
And the big question this week is, if you knew you were going to be safe afterward, what one stunt would you do for yourself for a movie? Tom Cruise, of course, famous for doing his own stunts, hanging off of planes. I mean, just all the things. So just, with Florence Pugh and wanted to do her own stunt by jumping off the second highest building in the world to start the movie in Thunderbolts. So what one stunt would you do for yourself? Let's start with Bradford.
Okay. My inspiration is coming from The Martian.
Okay.
Oh.
I want to be rescued out of a capsule by someone on a jetpack.
Okay.
Like that, where there's no tethering or anything like that. You just have to wing it. It's in space. But
it's you in the endless void. Yeah.
And the void. And you have all this velocity. What?
I want to be floating aimlessly, untethered from space.
All right. That's freaky.
Wow.
Oh, my God.
All right.
These are brothers from another mother.
I just went into more detail.
You guys just freak me out.
I cannot believe that.
But it's that scene. Like, that's a really stakes. Again, right? We talk about stakes all the time, and there are stakes because it's you miss and you're done.
Mm-hmm.
But I want it to be a real stunt, not in a studio. That'd be pretty cool. If I'm guaranteed safety.
I picked this. I'll just jump on because it was the same thing.
Yeah.
I picked this because I thought the loneliness of that would be pretty amazing. I don't know. To me, it's a loneliness that very few human beings have felt.
And
ever.
Has been done really well in so many movies.
Mm-hmm.
The Martian. You can look at Gravity.
That's the one I was thinking of.
2001: A Space Odyssey. Dave trying to get back into the ship. And
Space Camp, the movie.
Space Camp, the movie. It's the most serious of all of them. The classic. All right, I'm going to jump in there because you guys said untethered. Mine's actually tethered.
Lame.
So I'm going to go back to the original, to the Mission Impossible, where he's trying to get into the skiff, the impenetrable, place in the CIA, and he's on the high tension wires. Okay, the drop and thinking you're going to be pancake and then to stop at just the right spot, I think would be thrilling. And I think there's a lot of rides and things that people have paid to do that is very similar. But I could also see the real world practical effects. As somebody who raised children and had to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night and stepped on a Lego in the dark, the pain. If somehow I could have been on high tension wires floating over the room and not tripping over my kids' toys, worth it.
We've all felt that stunt, I think, of inflicting pain on our bare feet of a Lego.
Nobody knows the pain of Legos more than a parent.
That's true. So what would you say to the big question? What would your answer be? If you're watching on YouTube, again, down below in the comments, you can let us know. If you're not watching on YouTube, or if you are and you want to go social media route, you can follow us over there and check out if you knew you were going to be safe afterward. What one stunt would you like to do for yourself? We'd love to hear your answer.
At Jim Chandler Now is where you can find me on most platforms.
It's go overtime.
Justin B. Bradford.
Love to hear from you. Untitled Film Project Podcast. Tell a friend, and we'll give you 50% off your next podcast.
Deal, folks.
Thank you for listening to the Untitled Film Project Podcast. To support the show, please rate, review, follow, and subscribe. Original music by Jeremy Schwartz. Special thanks to the Music City Film Critics Association. Editing and post-production by Jeremy K. Gover. Voiceover by Chad Bennett.